So permafrost is a soil that remains frozen, so that means with a temperature that is below 0 degrees Celsius for at least 2 continuous years. And what is very important about permafrost is that it's widely distributed, but from a circumpolar perspective. And interestingly, in Nunavik, northern Quebec, there is a gradient of different type of permafrost. And this is related to the level of degradation, or we can see that differently from how widely distributed it is. So if you go north, like in Salouet, for example, then you have continuous permafrost. So this means that the permafrost is widely distributed on the land. So if you go south, for example, around Umeak, then you have discontinuous permafrost with a distribution of around 50 to 90% of the territory or the landscape. And then here, close to Wapmagoostui Kuujjuarpik, it's sporadic permafrost, where it's less than 50% of the landscape that is made of permafrost. With climate change, and if we're referring that to only global warming, then this frozen soil will start to thaw. There will be water in the ground. And with the cold temperature during winter, you will have formation of ice on the ground, which can lead to the formation of what we call pulsar. So it is like these small mountains that we can observe in the landscape. And as global warming progresses, these pulsar will degrade and can lead to the formation of what we call thermokarst lakes or permafrost thaw ponds. So they are like small water bodies that are appearing in the landscape here in Nunavik. Permafrost thaw ponds have been observed to be hotspots for the generation of greenhouse gases like the carbon dioxide of methanes that are emitted through the atmosphere. And part of these emissions are related to the activity of small organisms that we can find in the water, mostly bacteria. And part of this activity of these microbes is that they are using material compounds that were stored in the permafrost before, but because permafrost is thawing, then these compounds are now made available for these microorganisms, and they use this for metabolisms, and the result of these metabolisms can be, among others, the production of these greenhouse gases. There are also transport of compounds from permafrost to other aquatic ecosystems, like rivers or lakes that were in the landscape before permafrost thaw. So their creation of these water bodies are not related to global warming. During the last couple of decades, the vegetation has changed a lot. So with this, ultimately you will change the chemistry of the water again, because the compound that will be transferred from the land to the water will be affected by the vegetation that is developing around these water bodies. But also this will have an effect on the structure of the soil and also wildlife. A good example, I think, for this are birds. The whole system will be changing with the development of vegetation, and this could also impact the communities with their tradition for hunting in certain areas, because they would observe certain type of animals. But if the landscape is changing, maybe the animals will migrate and go somewhere else where the environment is more favorable for them. Also, depending on what is transferred to the aquatic systems from the changing landscape, this could also have some implication for the quality of the water. For example, there is new findings that the permafrost was a huge stock of mercury. And now with the permafrost thawing, then maybe some of this mercury can be transferred to aquatic systems. Would that mercury be transformed into this toxic form of mercury? That we don't really know, and how that could be accumulating in fishes, for example. And we can also ask this question in terms of drinking water quality as well. So definitely more work is to be done on whether permafrost thawing has a direct or indirect effect for the health of the communities. Also because it will come with some aspect of the traditional knowledge, where people has a strong link with nature and their access to fresh water. So if this water becomes problematic for their health because of the presence of certain compounds, then there is a cultural dimension that comes into play. And then to find a solution, the solution must include these aspects, that's for sure. The climate is changing so fast that I think we need to follow how these changes are occurring, and eventually, even possible, try to model this to see if we can think of a trajectory to anticipate the changes and adjust for the benefit and the well-being of the communities.